All right, well, welcome everyone. For those of you returning from earlier session, thanks for coming back. For those of you who this is your first session with us today, thank you for coming. I'm David. I'm in the role of Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer here at University of Miami. And I've asked partners at Microsoft and Alithia to come here to provide really detailed training on how to use, one of the more compelling artificial intelligence platforms that we have available to all faculty, staff, and graduate students here at University of Miami. So if you don't know, we have the largest installation of Copilot amongst educational and healthcare institutions. We have 20,000 licenses, and we're just trying to make sure everybody gets the most out of this. So this is our second session. It's a slightly different topic. We're trying to make sure that the curriculum that we have is meaningful and interesting to everybody who can attend these sessions. This is more focused on productivity and, saving everybody's time, because that's ultimately how we're going to get a return on our investment, is just to make sure that we save everyone's time so they can be more productive in other areas. And, frankly, there's a lot of annoying things that we're all asked to do all the time, like answer a million emails or make spreadsheets or PowerPoint presentations. So all of this is going to be helpful, not just because we get a return on the investment, but it's just going to make your lives easier. Again, I've asked Alithia and Microsoft to come here today to provide this training. So earlier, Marcella gave a great presentation on the basics, and we've got Anna up here who is going to do our presentation on this productivity session. We will have some office hours after this if you have detailed questions or you want to work through problems that you have. And my office is always available to answer questions on anything related to Copilot or broader AI topics here at University of Miami. So please feel free to reach out. Without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Anna, and we'll get started on this session.
Thank you, David. Welcome, everyone. And yes, as David mentioned, we are with Alithia. So before we continue, yes, we would ask for everybody to please sign in. There are sign-in QR codes. We know you register for the session, but we do appreciate if you sign in so that we can track attendance. For those of you who are also online, who have joined us virtually, please also sign in. We have shared the link through the chat or through the Q&A action, and you also have had the option to scan the QR code on the screen at this time. So yes. So I am Anna. I've been with Alithia since 2014. I have my bachelor's degree in mathematics with a minor in statistics, fluent in Spanish. I learned English when I was 13, and I'm also dabbing a little bit on American Sign Language and also learning a little bit of French here and there. I have a passion for I've been working with Microsoft training sessions for years now, way back when people were coming from Office 2007 to Outlook 2013, 2010, I believe, was the big change with the menu and the ribbon changes. That was part of what I did. So I helped people transition there. And now we are working with Copilot, which is part of artificial intelligence. And sometimes we ask ourselves, is it replacing my job, and am I secure at my job? Some of us have been asking ourselves that. So I'll go ahead and teach you how to use the tools to take advantage and actually be more productive rather than working with the to-do list that you have to do on a regular basis. Feel free to ask questions. To ask questions, you press the microphones. That way the people who are in the session through the virtual session can also hear you. And also Marcella, my colleague, will be answering the questions that come over through the chat. So I'll be focused on delivering the session, but if you guys have a question, please feel free to ask. And just raise your hand and I'll be happy to answer. Now, we are going to use Copilot Microsoft applications. you are in this session, you may already have the Copilot license, you may not. The goal is for you to hopefully leave this session signing up for Copilot, and there is the opt-in screen QR code throughout, or maybe you saw it when you came in, if you don't already have it. We'll understand some of the uses and the limitations that are available through Copilot because it is artificial intelligence. It's not going to do everything we can do ourselves. So it does have some limitations. And we'll finally be able to create some content. Now, the recording will be made available to you. You'll receive an email letting you know that the recording's available and you can follow up with that. So if you don't mind, those people who are in the chat, just please let us know what school you're in. I believe that information is being tracked even on the survey. So just let us know the school that you belong to, the college that you belong to within the University of Miami. Now, let's go ahead and actually get started with Copilot here. And if you didn't know, you have access to Copilot through Microsoft Office 365. And you'll know that you'll have access to your license within Copilot when you have the Work tab as well as the Web tab here. Otherwise, you're probably going to see a warning or a request asking you to get Copilot. And it's going to say something like upgrade to Copilot. So if you're seeing that link there, you definitely don't have Copilot yet. So then you'll see the Work tab and the Web tabs to let you know to take advantage of these. So what does it work with? It works with your Office 365 files, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams. So if you're storing your files in your Microsoft Teams, SharePoint document libraries, or if you're storing your files in your personal OneDrive for Business, or in a SharePoint document library, those are the files that Microsoft Teams is going to be working with. It is going to work with Office 365 applications, the ones that you see in the app launcher, or in this case, the app launcher has disappeared, and we'll have access to the list of apps when we click on apps. I've taken the initiative to pin them to the navigation pane because I need them to be accessible, and otherwise I'll have to continue going over into the apps here. So all of these apps, the ones that I already work with on a regular basis, will show me the use of Copilot throughout the ribbon. I'll see here, for example, in Excel, and I'm working in a different computer, so my right click and my left click are unique, but you'll see the Copilot icon on the ribbon throughout your different applications. It is going to connect to your information, to your Microsoft data information, that is your work email, your chats, and your documents. Only information to which you have permissions to work with. So if you're not part of a chat, you're not going to have information for that chat content. If you're not part of a meeting, you're not going to have part of that meeting notes and recording and such. Just like if you're not invited, you don't have access to my party, right? So if you're working in Copilot, don't worry about another team or another department who doesn't already have access to the SharePoint library or the Teams site to access your content. Now, it's going to connect to your information, to your email to help you personalize it and to work with it. When we're working with Copilot, and that, again, that is available through Office 365, through chat here. It's going to help us summarize text, generate names. It's going to help us translate and answer questions. Sometimes I will upload a document and tell it, create a top 10 Q&A list of this document, or translate this document so that I can understand it. Not necessarily to another language, but in simpler terms, because we're in a medical facility. Some of us may not be medical staff, therefore we needed to have it explained to us in other terms. Now, there are some limitations. There are potential inaccuracies. You should always check the work. You're the one that is responsible for checking the outputs. And I'm just going to tell you, back to grade school, when we did our research papers back in high school, our teachers told us to use reliable sources and to use information from that edu websites, that government websites. So when you're looking at the content that Copilot is producing, you are the one that is responsible for checking and verifying the output. And sometimes it may not have context awareness beyond what you're providing. And sometimes it may not have deep knowledge of niche topics that you're interested in using. So we have different ways of working with Copilot. I already told you could go to Microsoft 365, and this is the homepage now for Office 365. You land right here for Copilot Work and Copilot Web. Then you also have access to Copilot within Microsoft Teams. It's available to you on the navigation pane. If you don't see it right here, on the navigation pane from the get-go, simply click on your ellipsis where you're going to see apps that are shown to you by Miami University. And then once you see these apps, notice that I'm not clicking on the apps icon. I'm clicking on the ellipsis. There you're going to see Copilot. Once you locate it, you'll simply do a right click and pin it into place. This way, all you have to do is click on Copilot and access the tools that are available to you through Microsoft Teams. Now, you may wonder, why would I use Teams Copilot versus the web version versus the applications themselves? It's about what works for you. The Teams version can work with files in Excel, files in Word. It can reach your emails. It can reach your meetings. You can ask it to summarize your to-do list for the coming weeks. You can ask it to give you a summary for everything that you've done for the last 3 months, for example, when you're writing up your annual review. What did I do what were the projects that I accomplished? And so we'll go ahead and review all of those features here shortly. You can also ask the web version things. So the web version is outside of the content that's within the University of Miami. This goes as if you were going to do a Bing search outside of, as if you were just opening up a web browser. So for example, let me go ahead and ask here, what are the University of Miami's register hours office for tomorrow? So I don't know, I don't work here, but I need to go ahead and register for classes, for example. Or I could ask it, what are the clinic's hours, or where is the parking? So if it's available on the internet, that is exactly what it's going to do. One of my favorite things is that, yes, it provides us the resources of where it's grabbing this information. So like I said, you're the responsible person for confirming that the resources that are provided to you are actually reliable. I expand and I look at the citations. I click on the citation, it takes me to the website, and that's where the information came from. And as long as that's up to date, then yes, I can confirm that the university hours for the registrar are correct. And it simply says Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5 p.m. When I go back to my Teams and check here, it tells me that. So it's as if you were doing the web search rather than going into the work tab. Even though we're in University of Miami, I could have done the same question, but sometimes you just find yourself asking questions on the web when you're doing research outside of the work files that you have permissions to use already. So maybe you can do more complex searches as well. And for example, maybe you teach, I'm going to say for poetry at the university, and you need to take a look at the students and take a look at the important works, and you want to find additional works to use for reference. and you want to find the original publication date for that and the original publication year for that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my prompt. By the way, we are using prompt. That is what it's called when you make a request to Copilot. And as you're making your requests, and I did switch over to the website version as well. When you're making your requests, you want to think of the 5 W's. What do I want? How do I want this? When is the time range of what I'm requesting? Why do I want this? And who is involved? So the more details I give it to my prompt, the better the output it's going to be. And I asked for the year of the publication. So I asked, what year was that? Essentially the length. And I am asking it to have it sorted by publication year. So the more complex your request, the longer it takes. And sometimes we have to break up our request into smaller requests, just like us. If our manager is asking us for something and then we need further explanation, please break that down for us and such. Now, while this is generating, and here is the list of the essential Old and Middle English works for introduction poetry, and it's listed by year for the publication. And it's also telling me the price and the location to get it. So that is a simple web search that I can do. I am not working on the work tab. This went outside of the Copilot's resources within my account, within my SharePoint, my Teams, my OneDrive, my emails, my files, etc. So if I'm going to do a search that requires outside information, I can go to the web information. Now, before I continue, the requests that you're making here are going to be protected. We see that shield with the green check mark that tells us that enterprise data is protected. So it's not going to learn from you. It is going to apply just to your chats. It's not going to keep that and build on it and then essentially build a robot to take over the world, right? It's going to just help you as the end user. So we're pretty safe. We're pretty comfortable. And that's one of the reasons Miami wouldn't put its details at risk, essentially. So they're pretty confident that it is protected whenever you make a request here within Copilot. Now, one of the tools that you find available within Copilot on the web version, and I'm going to open here the navigation pane and close the tabs, is access to agents. So the agents you find here, and these are the built-in agents. They are specialty Copilot research tools that you're going to find to analyze your data. Now, don't get confused. Agents have a limit of 25 prompts. Copilot does not have that limitation. So within Copilot, you'll be able to work in Excel and Word. You've seen me work on the web. You've seen me work in Teams. Now, the agents come with 25 prompts limitation, a monthly limitation of 25 prompts. We have the analyst agent and we have the researcher agent that come here automatically. So because of those limitations, I am actually playing for you a video. This is what it's going to do. It's going to be specific information for that specific topic to generate your questions and answers within the agent, the analyst or the researcher. That's outside of what you're already working in. So the researcher, for example, is going to help you do research. And we are requesting up-to-date information on the ethics of AI and AI research, along with the latest data. So remember, with these requests, we are going to have a limited amount of prompts when we are working with the researcher information. So it could be the database that you have for your studies. I guess we're at the Eye Institute for every medical study that you've done within the eyes and such. So you have a special database within the agent to work specifically with this. So this is outside of SharePoint, outside of Teams, outside of OneDrive. This is, you are creating the bot essentially with the information so that the end users can rely on it and use it effectively for you. Yes, please use your microphone. Thank you.
On search for 25 pounds a month that we can use like different agents to work. Or is it per agent? For the analyst profile or for the research profile?
Oh, it's for both. So 25 prompts total for analyst and researcher per user. So
What would be the added value of using those specifically if it's such limited in regards to the amount of prompting?
so we are the ones creating the user, the bot for the agent. We would be the ones creating them to provide that information. So if you have a set of students who needs access to specific information, you could create the agent with that information. It's specific. They would be the ones using the prompts. And this is correct. Well, actually, Microsoft is here with us. Please correct me.
It's a more robust large language model, and so it does much deeper analysis when you ask it a prompt, and so that's why we limit it to those 25 prompts. Because it's using so much data, it's processing so much data using our servers that we need to limit that. That may change in the future, but for now, it's the 25 combined prompts for those two particular agents.
Okay, thank you.
Does it tell you where you want to usage? I was in it the other day and I was looking at a big data set and I'm like, oh crap, I'm getting myself with all my prompts.
I don't know that it does tell you.
So
I
you
haven't
just-
seen that. It'll tell you when you run out. Yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, 25 prompts is a lot. I mean, and when we first released Copilot, we actually had a limit of 30 prompts for just regular Copilot. Because when you start prompting a Copilot tool like this, and you do more than even, I think, 10 to 15 prompts, Copilot, there's so much data in Copilot process that it starts to get confused and you're going to start to get hallucinations. So I mean, I would probably, for those two specific researcher and analyst agents, I would use 1 or 2 prompts per session, per day. Just because it's analyzing so much data, it's going to start to hallucinate pretty quickly.
Thank you, Amy. For the people, in case we didn't hear. Oh. Okay, we need to update our information. Yes, I did say a month. Okay. I'm like, Microsoft, we need to update our information. Okay. Yes. For those who are online and the question that was asked, it was, does it keep record of your prompts that you're asking it to the researcher and analyst agents? As of right now, what we know is that it will tell you when you run out, right? That's what we have. Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and continue using outside of the agents and actually continue using Copilot, because Copilot is going to be working and helping you with what you do at work already. You don't necessarily need to go out there and build your own agent. You could just take advantage of the tools that are already available to us to be proactive and keep going forward with our request. For example, if I teach a class and I need to come up with ideas that my students are not going to hate, We are different generations, etc. So what are some themes that I can use to do that? So I'll go over to the web and paste that in here. For example, the request that I have here is teaching choir, and you want to help them so they don't get bored. And as we see here, we're asking Copilot. And I am still using the website version because it is going and it's telling me how fantastic it is. And here are some presentation ideas. Here are some theme ideas, additional theme ideas, and such. Now, with each output that it provides, whether we're going to be working on the work tab or the web tab, one of my favorite things is that it helps us with additional prompts, things to take initiative. Maybe I don't have experience with this project. Maybe I'm just exhausted and I'm not thinking. So it helps us with additional prompts that we may not have thought of initially, and we can just take advantage of the extra steps that it's using. So what are some more interactive elements that I can include, for example? Or you can view the additional prompts that are already generated for us in Copilot. So let's go ahead and actually take advantage of tools that we have permissions to use. All right, what I'm going to do is switch over to the work tab. This time, I'm going to assume I'm a professor. In one paragraph, summarize any common themes in my students' papers. And what I'm going to do here is these papers are already either in my OneDrive, my SharePoint, or my Teams. To reference that, what I'm going to use is the slash icon. The slash icon is going to allow me to reference everything, individuals, files. These are the recently used files that I've been working on. Any recent meetings that I have access to, or any emails that I've been referencing as well. If for one reason or another, it's not coming up in the name when I start typing or searching for it. For example, I believe I was working with the file name student, and it's not there. I know I have it in my cloud environment. I'll just go ahead and click on the attach the cloud files option. This is then going to show me the same window that I see in my OneDrive homepage, where it shows me my recent files, my files for OneDrive, and then it also shows me the document libraries that I've been recently working in within SharePoint or Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to locate these files here. Here we go. And I do want to compare multiple files, so I'll go ahead and select them all. And I'll click select. It's going to insert all of these files and reference them in one paragraph, summarize any common themes in my students' papers. And I chose different papers from different students. I'll go ahead and request their generation. Now, with these outputs, there is a limitation of the number of files that you're working with. I believe we are limited to 5 files at a time. And it's going to generate the output, but then it's going to give you the references within each of the papers and highlight the footnote, letting you know where in the paper it's coming from to provide you that idea. So at any point, I could click here on the stop generating option, but just like us humans, we don't like to be interrupted when we're working. Copilot is going to get grumpy and it's going to start telling you I wasn't done or something like that. All right. So here are the sources that you uploaded, essentially the files that you uploaded, and it's telling you and summarizing the work that they submitted to you. Now, like I said earlier, take advantage of the additional prompts that are generated for us provide more details. Are there any contrasting themes, an example, and such? Now, within Copilot, if you're using the browser in Microsoft Edge, we have the Copilot icon. Once you have enabled it and once you have signed on, you have the option to translate documents or web pages just by telling Copilot to translate them. So what I'm doing is I'm still working in the work tab. I did not switch over to the web tab. In my personal experience, however, I have found that if I go to the web version, it does translate better as opposed to translating from the work tab. But let's go ahead and give it a shot and tell it to translate this page. I am not highlighting text. And I'm simply telling Copilot to do it. Now, one of the things is the Copilot icon here is not colorful. It is the colorful ribbon that we know up here. So we'll show you different icons and different tools that you have across things. Now, I told it to translate it, but I never told it what language to translate this to. So I'm going to go ahead and actually tell it to translate this into Spanish this time, and we'll go. And then not only does it translate the content, but it also tells us the answer in Spanish. Now, what I have experienced when I start translating is that if I don't start a new chat, it'll continue answering to me in that language that I was telling it to translate to. So one of the ways to break around that would be to simply start a new chat. That way it doesn't pick up from the hiccups of the previous conversation. Kind of like us. We go take a nap, we wake up recharged, and we're ready to go. Because if we just keep telling it, like Amy was telling us, it will start hallucinating and such. So let's go ahead and see and take advantage of Copilot within Microsoft Word. And I'm simply going to go to Word in a new file. Control. We're going to be able to create brand new documents. And you're going to notice that your Word looks different once you have the license for Copilot. Copilot is going to appear with different files that you've been working on with, and it's going to start telling you suggestions of what you want to do going forward. For example, it's going to tell me to create the action plan for the morning briefings, or I can simply come in here and tell Copilot what to do. Now, as long as I have the license, Copilot is going to be available on the ribbon on the Home tab for most of my applications within the Office suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. So let's go ahead and tell Copilot to create a document based on the advantages of using Copilot in Microsoft Word. And then we're asking it to give us a list and bullets for the best uses. Notice that it tells me that I have here 400,000 characters. And if I want to start referencing files, again, use the / to reference other files. Now, here, you don't see the cloud icon. If you wanted to reference files to create a document based on a PowerPoint presentation or an Excel document, but you click on the upload icon, and again, the same window that we saw earlier when we didn't have access to our most recent files, it's here. So, but for right now, we're simply going to ask to create a document about the benefits of using Copilot, and here we go. And it's generating a draft. I'll stop it if I need to. And here we go. Now, about the policies regarding publishing work created by AI, that is up to you. Communicate with the policies regarding the university, because I can only teach you how to use the software. I don't know the policies of the university themselves. It's up to you on how you're going to be utilizing Copilot with the work that it's creating. Now, with every output in Word, we will have the option to keep it, discard it, or regenerate it. Yes, I could click stop. We're just gonna let it finish here. Now, the outputs are also going to be different. You saw that I clicked on the box to create the content, as if I use Copilot on the navigation pane. I could have used the navigation pane and told it to write the document, and it would have done so within the navigation pane. But then I would have to copy and paste it into Word, which kind of defeats the purpose of just being proactive and taking initiative. But yes, you always have Copilot, which opens it up on the navigation pane to start generating. Now, here, notice I can keep it, I can trash it, or I can change the tone. I can amend it. I can say, maybe address this to the senior faculty members to help their teaching assistants. So, yes, absolutely. Regenerate this and update my draft. Now, it's still going through the document and updating the content. What impacts your use of Copilot? Your computer's processing speed. So if you have a lot of files in your desktop, it's probably going to be slower. I am also on the guest Wi-Fi and not on the student network or the employee network. So that is also going to impact the speed of things, and also your synchronization of files. And also, like, it's probably exhausted of all the requests that I've made to it. So it is taking its time. But you see here on the navigation pane, at any point, I could ask it to summarize the document. Now, that is a basic request, but think of the 5 W's. How short do I want that summary to be? Who do I want that summary to be addressed to? And why am I asking for the summary? So think of those questions as you are generating your output. So whenever you generate something, when it's finally done, look at the previous output, decide if you want to keep the first one or the second one. And then you can also regenerate it just to create a different version with a different draft. And I'll just go ahead and keep this one. So now, if I want to reference, like I said, files that are in other documents, they have to be saved in the cloud. And as a matter of fact, when we start working in Excel, Excel is going to tell us to save it to the cloud before it even starts working. Whereas in Word, the autosave is off and I haven't even saved this file to OneDrive yet. Word will allow us to start working with drafting files without having to save them to the cloud first. That is something that I have noticed, but I'm not going to save this yet. And we'll go ahead and switch over to another tool. So let's switch over to Outlook. And I have been told that most users here at the university are working in the new Outlook. So let's go ahead and take advantage of Outlook, new Outlook with Copilot. All right, what we can do here, I am working in the options to view my email, and I have a lot of email here. And with my emails, I can see here already that Copilot is going to give me a summary. So I summarized by Copilot, and the email is already, and Copilot is simply going to do that for me. Scan the email, and it's going to give me a brief summary without having to actually read the entire thread of the email. And let's start our day. Let's use the navigation pane this time. And what happened? Okay. So in Outlook, we are working on the Work tab, and we're going to tell it to catch me up on my email from the past week, for example. Sometimes we go on vacation. Sometimes we end up having to be out of the office for a day for whatever reason, and we need to come back and get caught up. So I'm just going to say, catch me up on my email and organize my email by topic. What do I actually need to address? And let's go ahead and take care of that. So you asked Copilot for a summary of your emails, and here are your updates. There are some emails that I received delegation. And here it shows me the summaries list of my emails that I have received and what I need to do and what I'm working on and the subtopics of what I need to address. Now, I can also ask Copilot to help me draft an email. Notice that the Copilot icon is going to be different across different functions and different applications. So if you see the stars, that's a Copilot icon. Right here, schedule with Copilot versus the Copilot ribbon here. So for example, I receive an email from my colleague and she assigned me a task. And I'm like, what do you really need me to do? Let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's schedule a meeting. So here is the Copilot icon, schedule with Copilot, and it's going to set up a meeting invite for the two of us at a time that works, not just any time in the day. It already looked through the availability and it already attaches the subject line automatically. So it helps us be proactive right here within just looking at emails. You're gonna see that not all the features with Copilot work in all of your emails, and that's because that's already an email. That's already a meeting invite. So it's not gonna tell you to schedule with Copilot if it's already a meeting invite, for example. Let me go ahead and actually create a new message. And I'm going to maximize this window so that we see all of the tools within the new email window. So drafting with Copilot, it's already part of the inline tools, or you could use the Alt-I on your keyboard. And here, what do I want Copilot to do? I want to write an email to my students about the upcoming exam, which is going to be conducted by the TA. And I want to stress that this is going to be 1/4 of their grade. So I'll go ahead and click on the Copilot icon. What do you want to change? I could auto rewrite this, make it shorter, make it longer, or I could also customize the draft here. So custom instructions and use the instructions when you are writing your emails for your students. So clarify the purpose, make it more creative. Maybe I want to make it encouraging. And I'll go ahead and generate here. And it rewrites it. I could insert it below or replace it completely. So I'll replace the text. And it's now more enthusiastic, more supportive, rather than just being threatening, for example. So you can change your tone, you can make it longer, you can make it shorter, and you can regenerate it when you're writing your emails here in Copilot. You'll see the Copilot ribbon without the colors throughout different applications from time to time. So does it insert your signature? Yes, it will automatically work with your signature in the sense that it's not part of Copilot, it's part of creating a new email. So you don't have to worry about your signature missing. This account just doesn't have a signature set up there. All right. So you guys create presentations, I'm assuming? Yes, yes. All right, let's go over to PowerPoint. And PowerPoint can create presentations from scratch if you just give it a topic, or it can create a presentation based on a file that you're giving it to create a presentation from. The presentations can be created from Word documents or PDF files. So that's the limitation as of right now, a Word document or a PDF file. And now, when we're creating a presentation from blank, just a blank presentation. Whoa, the Copilot icon already opened, I believe. But if the university has a template that it's using and that is the requirement, you can use your design window here and make sure that you go to your organization and select it from your organization templates. Or you can also just open up the template if it's a PowerPoint template file, and that way you start working from the template file. Here, go ahead and tell it what you want to create a presentation about from scratch. You're not giving it any sources, well, in this example. And since we're at a hospital and the kids are going back to school, let's go ahead and just talk about a sore throat, apparently. So when it's generating the presentation, it's going to give us the topics that it's going to include in the presentation. We can click on the plus sign and tell it specifically what topic we want to add to the presentation and give it a description and add that additional topic. If the presentation that we see here is a topic that we don't like, go ahead and delete it. You don't have to include that. Now, one of the things that I have encountered is that we're not able to give it the limitation of the slides that we want to use. So for example, I want a 5-slide presentation. We're still working with that. So we'll go ahead and generate the slides. It is adding the titles. It's going to provide us with speaker notes. As it's generating the content, one of the differences is from Word and PowerPoint. We can only accept the output of the presentation or discard the output of the presentation. We're going to have to go into each of the individual slides and tell it to modify those individual slides. But in Word, we had the option to recreate, change the tone, change the length, and such. But in PowerPoint, you'll see here when it's done. And apparently, it just creates it for us now. I am speaking from outdated information of last week, apparently, that it just creates it. There was no accept or decline the output. So it did it for us. We then go into the slides. Notice that the Copilot icon changes again within PowerPoint. Not that the Copilot icon is changing. It's giving us different tools and different functions, but it's the Copilot feature here. So I call them the sparkles, but the slides essentially. They are different within the slide tools themselves rather than Copilot on the navigation pane. So with the output that it created for us, it gives us the speaker notes, and it also gives us each of the slide topics. And it's up to us to come into the slides themselves and use Copilot if we want to change the content of the slides or the graphics of the slides. So this is not a finished product by any means. You are the end user. You come in here and you modify it. You just didn't have to start from scratch completely. And also, for example, once we open the Copilot icon, it can create a summary, and it can also automatically just give you a suggested Q&A. It also gives you the option to work with images, summarize the presentation, and it gives us from the best practices as well. Now, if we're going to be creating a presentation from an existing source, I believe when we're in PowerPoint here, create a presentation or create a presentation with file. Notice that the Copilot icon here, again, it's the sparkles. And then this way, we're going to be able to use the presentation sources. Word files and apparently Excel files, but the Excel files that we're seeing here are only going to be for graphs, not for creating the entire presentation themselves. So you can work with the slide and then work with Excel to create a graphs or graphs for your slides. So for example, I have an annual report here. And when I do this, I can tell it to address this to senior faculty members to help their teaching assistants, for example. And actually, that is not the file I want to use. I want to show you that we can use PDF files as well. It goes through our file and it creates the topics and the sections. And again, we can discard anything we don't want to discuss, or we can click on the plus sign to add additional topics not already in the file. Generate the slides. And it takes its time. It's not in a blink of an eye, so let's be realistic. Yes, please. Question.
2 questions. Can we do, if we're doing PowerPoint presentations, right, can it be back or update a pre-existing presentation?
Can we edit or update an existing presentation? Yes. And what was your other question?
And my other question, the presentations that are similar and updating them, or just starting from scratch? Would you say would be use of the AI solution?
For AI, it would be starting from scratch, for sure. As far as editing presentations that already exist, I believe you are going to reach the brick wall that says it's going to create a new presentation for you instead of modifying the existing one. You're going to have to go into each of the slides and modify them individually, even if it's with AI. And that is correct, Amy? All right, just counting on you to confirm and fact check everything.
So the same thing with Word, then the same thing with that.
In Word, you're creating documents.
Well,
Yes,
not
yes.
the presentation for that.
Yes, actually, Word will allow you to modify the text and change the text and improve and edit and such. It is with PowerPoint where we reach the hiccup that it creates them from scratch versus editing existing presentations. Even when creating them within AI, it does not allow you to change them or modify them. It will create them and you can either accept them or reject them.
But from
It depends on the complexity of your request. But yes, I could, if I rather not go look for that existing document, if I don't have access to it, yes, start from scratch. Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see here, yes, just keep it or trash it, not modifying or regenerating it. Now let's go ahead and go over to Excel. And I just realized the time. So we have 5 minutes. Please don't forget to sign in, and there's the opt-in QR code in the back when you leave for you to sign in. Go ahead, Amy.
So why do you guys want that? FAQ for researcher and analyst agent, so I want to make sure I share the latest information. So one point of clarification is the 25 limit is per query, not per prompt. And so a query is the report that you get at the end after you finish prompting with Copilot. So you can go back and forth prompting, asking questions, clarifying your prompts, and then when you get to the end, it creates a report. That is a query. You get 25 reports per month.
That's different because it's kind of like a conference session if you're always prompting back and forth on the same topic. Okay, thank you.
The thing to remember about the researcher agent and the analyst agent is that they are designed for robust researching. So if you're doing the things that Anna showed you, creating syllabus or coursework, things like that, you don't want to use the researcher agent for that. Those can be handled by our Copilot. When you're doing in-depth researching, that's when you might use those. One of those.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. All right, so in Excel, yes, it's not going to allow you to start using Copilot from the ribbon until your file is saved in there in OneDrive, SharePoint, or Teams. You have the autosave icon on, you have the floppy disk with the arrows in front of it. That's how you know your file is in the cloud. So I could very well come in here and tell it to create a formula for me and to sort and filter the information that I need. And I can add a column, for example, in here about the period and the year of the quarter. So if it does not do something, check your prompt. If it's possible to do something already in Excel, then it's probably going to give you the step-by-step instructions on how to do it. And it's going through my data. When it's analyzing my data to refresh this, it's going to highlight it in the Copilot colors. That's telling me that it's being analyzed. In order for you to use Copilot in Excel, it has to be organized in a range, and it's better for you to have it organized in a table. So it has to have clear headings, and we cannot skip columns. I mean, you can, but for best practices, you should avoid skipping columns and also rows. So avoid missing data or missing rows to analyze your data. Now, if you didn't know how to do the formula, it will give you the explanation for the request that you made. And then it also shows you that you can simply insert the column and it's adding it. So here we see it, the combined period. It gives us a value error if the calculation was not possible. But then we see here that we asked that it combined the year for the quarter and the year. We can also highlight data and analyze data. And for example, I can create a table showing causes of death for the last 12 months by age and gender. So let's go ahead and do that. Now it's going to create tables and it's going to create pivot tables and it's going to create graphs for us. But as of right now, one of the limitations is that it does not analyze the graphs for you. So it'll create them, but it won't analyze the graphs for you. And there's no column relating the causes of that. So it's not going to give me information that there's not already visible here. Now for Teams and your meetings, if you are in a meeting in Teams, you have to enable the transcription for Teams Copilot to be available after the meeting is over. You don't have to record, you don't have to enable the transcription if you're only going to be using Copilot during the meeting itself. But if you do enable Copilot to be available after the meeting, for example, we can ask Copilot about who made decisions, what needs to be followed up on, and so forth. So for example, I opened the task, the event here, and I'll go ahead and say, what are the follow-up tasks? And it's just going to go through the transcript essentially, and it's going to tell us the people who were speaking and such to generate the response for us. When you go into the Copilot event, you have to have enabled transcript during your meeting when you start it, and then that's how you'll have access to Copilot after the meeting. All right. And I believe the time for the presentation is over. So you should be able to use Copilot. Don't forget to request it if you need it still. You can understand some of the limits and you can create content. So the get prompting is going to give you some sample prompts that you can practice with. Some of the ones that we had in the session as well. And if you need to request AI, because you don't have it yet, feel free to scan the QR code so that you can get your own license. And you can also register for additional courses. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We still have cupcakes, and then we'll begin the Q&A session shortly. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, everyone.
Thank you for.
Yes, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I believe we have a half-hour session after this, and then, yeah, so please.